Well, I'm going to start first in the U.S. In the U.S., in the film industry, we have a major diversity issue. There's just not enough minorities, whether they're black or Asian or Hispanic, Native American. We don't have enough of those voices. We very much don't have enough women voices. If you look last year, the number of feature films directed by women in Hollywood, it's disgusting. But forget Hollywood. Go around the world, all over, we're missing these voices, right? So in the artistic community, this is not a zero-sum game. You are not more successful because someone is less successful. If you get to tell your story and someone else doesn't get to tell theirs, that is not good for you. Good for you is that you know more stories. And here, the racial issue obviously is a very different thing. It's not like the US. But the gender issue it's a big issue. And I was in Nairobi, I was at POWA 254. And I ended up writing about the fact that like these artists get up, these like spoken word artists, and they're mostly men. And I'm talking to them afterwards, right? And I realized that even in the audience, like the women have to like go home soon, or they have to take cabs home. And I even said to some of the guys, I'm like, guys, you have a responsibility here. You have a responsibility because there are voices that aren't being heard. There are women's voices we're not hearing because they can't stay out until 11 o'clock at night, but you can. And you're losing, and I'm losing, and they're losing. So what are you going to do? You find a way to walk them home at night? Make sure that they also have opportunities to show up and do their poetry? Are you going to get up on that stage every time and not make room for someone who's like, you know what? I'm not sure, right? Like, if I'm the only woman here, if I'm one of only two women, maybe I'll like kind of sit back. We're missing those voices. So even in this room, right? Like we need to be aware that we are creating spaces for our voices, not my voice, not your voice, not your voice, not your voice. Our voices. And we don't actually need that many resources to do any of that stuff. You know, we just show up and be really good. And we make sure that we're hearing the voices, because when we're hearing those voices, the stories that we're hearing that we otherwise wouldn't be hearing, that's the stuff that makes our work richer, right? I'm a white dude. I don't know what it's like to be a black dude. I don't know what it's like to be a white woman. I don't know what it's like to be a black woman. How in the world am I going to be able to bring that into my art and my creativity if I can't hear those women or those black people? I can't. I lose. But so often, particularly in the creative industries, we have this like, oh, it's so hard. And I'll tell you right now, like I work in an industry that's really hard. There's a reason why white guys in Hollywood don't have a whole lot of sympathy for the fact that women and minorities struggle to find a voice. Because they're like, yeah, I know how hard it is. If you want to make it in Hollywood as a director or as a writer, like it's hard. I don't care who you are. The problem, so every time a white guy gets a big directing gig or whatever, he's like, yeah, well, you know what? Like maybe I just wanted it more or whatever, and all that stuff's bull. It's bull, right? It's that we still somehow believe that my voice is more important than your voice or your voice or your voice. And I say that for everyone, right? But it's the voice of the other that informs us, right? I'm sitting up here talking, and guess what? I'm not learning as much as you are. But as soon as you start talking, I get to be the one to learn. But yet we have so much of this thing. It's like, oh man, I have this important thing I need to say, so everyone else like shut up and listen to me. But when I say that, when that's the attitude that I bring to my storytelling, I lose. Yeah, I might make a few more dollars because I get these jobs because of my status or my situation or my race or my gender. But I lose. My art loses. The world loses.